Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with us through that break. If you are just tuning in, we covered the NFLPA report card, the second annual one, some major takeaways from that in the first segment. In the second segment that we just finished up, we covered the Texas Rangers, their offseason, what we expect them to do in the upcoming 2024 year on their title defense. Upcoming in this segment, we are going to be covering Mel Kiper's mock draft that just came out today. And in the segment, in the fourth segment, to finish up our show, we'll be talking about some possible quarterback movements, some people that are already on teams that might lose their job or get cut or traded, some news around that as well. But before we get too far into this segment, I'd just like to remind everybody that if you would like to be a bigger part of today's show or any show in the future, all you need to do is go to GSMCPodcast.net to leave a tip or donation. You can leave that tip or donation with a note. It'll scroll across the bottom of that screen for me and everybody else to see. You can participate with me directly, and we'll have a little conversation. Again, if you want to be a bigger part of the show, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net, leave a tip or donation, and we'll have a little chat. But like I was saying, we are going to break down Mel Kiper's mock draft today in this segment. Mel Kiper, the draft analyst for ESPN, dropped his most recent mock draft, full first round. And there were a couple big things. This is his second mock draft. There are a couple big changes. We talk about, obviously, the big question, Justin Fields or Caleb Williams or whatever the Bears, are going to do in the first overall pick. He has them taking just Caleb Williams. My brain is all over the place. And I agree with this move. So, mock draft 2.0 off to a good start. He has 4 quarterbacks going in the first round. Now, I know a lot of talk has been put on the big 3 quarterbacks in this draft. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. And that 4th quarterback that a lot of people are saying is JJ McCarthy. And Mel Kiper has him going 12th to the Broncos. I am a staunch JJ McCarthy hater, a non-believer. I don't think he's very good. I think it's absolutely a waste of a pick with that first round. But we'll get into JJ McCarthy in just a little bit. At the top of the draft, the first thing that I had a little surprise here is at number 2, Mel Kiper has the Washington Commanders taking Jaden Daniels over Drake May. Now, what Jaden Daniels has is that mobility, that dual threat that a lot of people love. And they just did bring in Cliff Kingsbury, who made the big move to draft Kyler out of Oklahoma in his first year for that kind of offense. But I just think that Drake May is straight up a better quarterback. I think it's as much of a weapon as Jaden Daniels is. I think that there is enough of a gap between him and Drake May that it'd probably be a mistake to take him over, to take Jaden Daniels over him. Now, that's not to say that Jaden Daniels is a bad quarterback. I think he's going to be really good in this league. I just think he needs a little more time to develop than Drake May. And for the Washington Commanders, a team that's gone through so many changes recently, I feel like it'd be better for them to get a more ready quarterback. So that leaves the Patriots at 3 taking Drake May. So the top 3 picks are quarterbacks, leaving Marvin Harrison Jr. to fall all the way down to 4, which, if he falls past 4, it's a travesty. He is a generational receiver. And that's the next big thing that I wanted to talk about, the wide receiver rankings. Outside of Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously there's a top three in this class: Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, and Malik Neighbors. And the big debate right now is who is the better receiver. Is it Rome Odunze or is it Malik Neighbors? And I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. So I personally believe Rome Odunze is the better receiver. Him being that big physical guy, being able to make those big catches, and it's the same thing for Malik Neighbors. But what I'm seeing in all these mock drafts is whoever the Giants don't take at 6, Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors, is what I've been seeing the most. The Bears get the other guy at 9, which we've talked about this a bunch on this show. I think is a great draft for them. If they can get Caleb Williams and one of those top 3 receivers, I would be so happy if I was the Chicago Bears. Now, it's not always going to work out like this, but looking at all of these mock drafts, the way that it's kind of lining up, it might work out for them, assuming no trades. So, the other question, the main point of this draft that I wanted to talk about was JJ McCarthy going 12. There's a lot of question marks with JJ McCarthy, him specifically, and going to the Broncos there at 12. I've seen it a lot. I personally have 2 or 3. I think JJ McCarthy is about the 6th best quarterback on the board this draft cycle. I think Michael Penix is a better quarterback. I'm a big fan of him. I think Bo Nix even is better than JJ McCarthy. I think one of those things that is dangerous with him is a recency bias. Again, I talk about this a lot because it's something that is huge in all these off seasons, and we're in the off season in all these sports. This recency bias issue. JJ McCarthy is coming off a national championship. He led his team there. He's been there 4 years, and he's put up pretty good numbers. He is an NFL backup quarterback to me. And it's most college quarterbacks aren't that. It kind of, for me, harkens back to winners getting drafted, not based on their team, not them. You can go back to a guy like A.J. McCarron, with Alabama, or Georgia, Stetson Bennett, more recently, who got drafted, I believe, in the 5th round last year. He was only drafted that high because the team won. The team around him was good. And I'm getting I get the same kind of feeling with JJ McCarthy watching the tape. Not that he isn't a good quarterback, because to win in college, you have to be a good quarterback, But as far as being an NFL quarterback, I'm not sure. I think A.J. McCarron is a great example. He won a lot at Alabama. And then he just didn't pan out in the NFL. He makes a comeback in the XFL last season, and he plays great. And that's what he is. He's a backup quarterback, better than a lot of guys, can get you to win games, but he's not an NFL quarterback. And that's the kind of category that I think JJ McCarthy falls into. It's not a category that you want to be wasting a first-round pick on. But all this hype around him, all this buzz that seemingly came out of nowhere, I'm not a fan of JJ McCarthy at 12. I wouldn't draft him, period, but the earliest that I would draft him is in the 4th or 5th round. I don't think he is worth a day 1 or day 2 pick. If you want to take a risk on him, it would be day 3 for me. Now, obviously, NFL GMs and NFL circles, there's always that one guy that rises, and it's not always a bad thing. It's not always a bad example. You know, uh, Joe Burrow kind of rose out of nowhere. That was supposed to be Tua's draft. And he rose because he had one of the greatest college seasons of all time. You know, uh, Mitch Trubisky on the bad example. He kind of rose at the end in that draft cycle, ended up going number 2 overall, and we know how that panned out. There's just a lot of examples of these kind of guys getting all this draft buzz, and I really don't understand it with JJ McCarthy. Maybe he'll go out there and prove me wrong, but I don't have a lot of faith, and I think it would be a waste of a first round pick to get him in this draft, in the first round at least. We talked about the Giants a little bit with their wide receivers and that wide receiver ranking as well. But if you were the Giants, I'd like to pose this question. You have Daniel Jones. You kind of have to hold on to him for one more year with the way that his contract is. After that, you can cut him loose if you want. And we'll talk a little bit about this in our next segment. But would you draft a quarterback? Would you trade up for a quarterback? Would you sit there and be happy with getting a guy in the second round or something like that? I know what I would do if I was the Giants, and we'll get into this in the next segment a little bit. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that. And go check out this mock draft. Let me know what you think about it. But yeah, in the upcoming segment, we are going to be covering a bunch of quarterback moves, including Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson. We're going to be talking about Russell Wilson a little bit. So this segment kind of leads into the next, as obviously each of these draft picks kind of depends on what these teams do in the off season leading up to the draft. But stick around. We will be right back with that next segment.